I'm the mama that's got the money for your house. We are back. This is session number 5. And of course, we are here to talk about being on the path to home ownership. And you know this. Hope everybody is doing great, fantastic, wonderful. You are blessed today because you're still here. Amen. And so today I want to just welcome everybody. This is our last session for this course. You have made it. You've done a tremendous job. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. We started off this journey over a month ago, talking about busting out them home buying myths because people had a lot of misconceptions about how things work when it comes to home ownership. And so we changed that all out. We also introduced the key players on your team so you know who it is that's helping you out. We went over the cans and can'ts and all that good stuff. We did some of everything on that first time around. And then second time we had Reese come in and he talked about credit because that's his thing with the credit restore station. So Maurice came and he gave us a lot of tips and tricks and things that we need to know, ways to keep our credit healthy. If you're in a place where you're a little dire and you need some help, then he's able to offer services to do that as well. Then we also talked about being a savvy home buyer. You guys remember that one? So that was back to me again. And we did get a chance to discuss those acronyms like DTI and LTV and stuff like that. So if you didn't know, now you know, because we broke it all down for you. And we also talked about the mortgage money. So like, where does the money come from? What's acceptable? How do you get it? Down payment assistance, gifts, and all kind of things. What's acceptable in underwriting? We talked about all that kind of stuff. Then the next week, we came to Dion Branch. Okay, so Dion came in and she talked about the realtor part. So she talked about setting you up with the MLS, having listings sent to your email box, and you being able to select the home that you're interested in buying, placing a contract, then actually going through and looking at it. She talked about, she talked about the attorney, the home inspection, the appraisal. I think she touched on that a little bit too. And then even all the way to closing, like kind of preparation for closing. She didn't discuss closing, but she did talk about a little bit of preparation for closing, the final walkthrough and stuff. So we went through all of that. And now, we're on the last one. It's back to me. We've been like a tag team. Like WrestleMania. But anyway, but we're not wrestling. So tonight, though, we're going to wrap it all up, put a nice pretty bow on it and everything. And tonight we are going to talk about underwriting to the day of closing. We're going to talk about, we have a checklist for first-time home buyers. And actually, this is something that I think I can give you guys. So I haven't done this. So we've been really, light on paper, but this is something maybe I'm gonna try to see if I can figure out a way that I can actually put it onto the Facebook page, and maybe you can access, because I think you can put documents up or something. So I'll figure it out from one of my tech savvy people. Amber, that's probably gonna be you. So so we're gonna have something where you can actually utilize. I have the 10 commandments of mortgage. We're gonna go over that tonight, and we're also gonna go over some a checklist for actually after closing, because a lot of times people don't really talk about the after closing part, but there are some things that you really should know and be aware of and be prepared for to handle when you get ready to move into your new home. So I need to get set with this. Let me see. I should be able to share my screen. So let me go here. All right. So you guys know I'm still Facebook challenge and I'm not very tech savvy at all. So forgive me, charge it to my head, not my heart. Okay. All right. Let's see. Looks like this should be share. All right. And then, so we're going to take it all the way back to the very beginning, what we discussed from day one. So this should just come up for you guys as the slideshow, I guess. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I think I am. It's loading it. Loading should be good, right? Loading's a good sign. Hopefully loading is a good sign. All right. So, no, but it's not supposed to do that. All right. Okay. Oh, God, Jesus. All right. Okay. I think we're good because it's not moving anymore. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to stop. All right. So we're going to go all the way back to the very beginning where we talked about being the 23s, because I have not forgot that it's still 2023. We're in a new month now, but we are still the 23s. And so you guys know what that means, right? That means we have the spirit of 23. We are going to achieve some things this year. In 23, what? We won't accept defeat. In 23, we're not only winning, but we're winning big time. In 23, we are preparing and practicing. We're getting that planning together in 2023. In 23, we're giving it our all. In 23, we are setting and achieving goals because we won't be stopped and we will not be denied in the year 2023. And it starts today, just like it said in Proverbs 24 and 27. So I want to jump right in. You ought to say this one out loud with me. Tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different. Questions, we're actually going to hold off until the end of the program today. But anything, if you think of something, you're still welcome to go ahead and type it in the chat. But I'm probably not going to address it until we get to the very end. I'm doing something a little bit different today. But I want you to declare this with me today because I want this house. Now, this is just somebody else's house. This one ain't yours, but yours might look like it. I don't know. Anyway, because I want this house, I want you to say, I will not apply for any new credit until after my loan closes. After my loan. That's right. Because I want this house, I will keep my original documents handy. So, we're talking about W-2s and things like that, stuff that you don't use that often. You still need to keep up with those things because those are critical documents that we have to have during your transaction. Because I want this house, I will not make any cash deposits or large cash deposits or move money between accounts. Underwriters hate that. So say it with me. I will not make any cash deposits or move money between accounts. All right. Because I want this house, I will continue to pay my bills on time and continue to maintain healthy credit. Because I want this house, I will not change jobs or switch from a W-2 employee to a 1099 or a self-employed person, because then you got to wait an extra 2 years and establish self-employment history before I can actually get you qualified for a loan. So I will not change jobs or switch from a W-2 to a 1099 or a self-employed person. Because I want this house, I will not spend the money that I have been saving for closing. Say it with me. Okay. Believe it or not, some people do it. So I want to make sure that you are committed to not doing that. And the last one, probably my favorite, because I want this house, I will ask questions when I'm unsure and discuss all my financial decisions with Lisa, the house money mama, first. If you can do that, you'll be doing good. All right. Today, we're talking about underwriting the closing, handling it like a champ, the checklist for first-time buyers, probably some things you didn't think of, and then we're also going to have the 10 commandments of buying a home. So let's start right in. You see, I love this little, well, it's not really a meme, but I love the little graphic that we have here. This is nice. So, excuse me. So the 10 commandments of buying a home. Thou shalt not change jobs. I just told y'all that. Thou shalt not buy a car, truck, or boat, especially not a yacht, unless you plan to live in it. Thou shalt not max out your credit cards. Thou shalt not close any accounts. Believe it or not, you can close an account and you think you're doing something good, but it actually can tank your credit score because it messes with the amount of time that you have had accounts open, and that can actually count as a negative. The longer history that you have, the better. So don't close any accounts. Another one, thou shalt not spend your down payment money. I can't see it at the bottom here, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says. Number 6, thou shalt not buy furniture or anything else before your loan closes. Wait to furnish the house. Buy the house first, then furnish it, okay? Thou shalt not become self-employed. That's what I said earlier about becoming a 1099 person. We don't want to do that in the middle of a transaction because it's a whole different way that we have to calculate income, and it's different requirements and everything. Thou shalt not make any large undocumented deposits into your bank account. Thou shalt not shuffle your money. Or that's when I talked about moving the money around. You don't want to do that. Thou shalt not co-sign anybody. Never, ever, 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 ever. Just don't do it. It's probably not a good idea. All right. Next up, let's see. Let me come back over here. All right. So here's one of the things that often is a little bit of a, I guess, kind of a pet peeve is, and I think it's really important for you guys to know, not for me to gripe and complain about it, but because really your job is to make things as simplistic and easy as possible for the underwriter. Because you think about it, they're the one that's making the final decisions as far as your loan goes. So with that in mind, you want to make sure that when you send things into them, that you have things in a position where it's easy for them to do their job. Underwriters don't sit around all day twiddling their thumbs. They have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. And so they go into, they're very strict, and they have a lot of regiments and procedures that they have to follow. So they go into a file. They can only stay in the file for, they can't just hold it open for days at a time. They have to go into it, come out of it, move to the next file. It's like an assembly line of loans. And so to make things as easy and simplistic for them as possible, we want to decrease all their questions. Because I told y'all before, the underwriters are like little mini detectives. They like investigators. So you tell them one thing and then they have a question about 5 other things. So we don't want that. We don't want them to come back to us with 5 other questions. What we want is for them to look and say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Clear, and then go to the next condition. That's what we want. So one of the ways we can do that is how we turn in documents. Now, this includes me too. I'm not an underwriter, but if you gave me documents that look like what we see on the screen right now, I would not be happy with you. I wouldn't. I love you, but I would not be happy with you to have to look and, sort through something like that. So I'm pretty sure the underwriter wouldn't either. So to keep everybody happy, how about if we just do something a little different? Oops, let's go back up. Okay, so you want to be as neat as possible. A lot of times people think that it's okay. I'm going to give some tips, for how you turn in documents. That you can kind of turn, oh, well, I got this in the mail a month ago. It has some coffee spilled on. Okay, then how about you take it and you make a clean copy of it so it doesn't look as bad. Just you just want to be mindful. This is a professional field. We're dealing with hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars at a time. On the average, loan, in this area is probably going to be around maybe, I don't know, 220, 250-ish. I think that's what we're seeing probably on the average, So that means that we're evaluating you for that amount of money. Now, I don't know about you, but if it was me, and I have to make a decision about whether or not to loan you $220,000, I'll probably be asking you for a blood sample. I would want your baby finger. I would want your mama's information. I would be asking you for all kind of stuff. You wouldn't get a loan from me because if you did, I know for sure you're going to pay my stuff back because I took every precaution necessary. So fortunately, we don't have to jump through all those kind of hoops with the underwriters, but they do still have very specific parameters. And they also have, a professional level of quality that we want to have when we turn in documents. So again, that's all this is really saying. It's just, this is how you want things to look. You want it to be nice, neat, not stained. You want to be able to see the entire sheet of paper when you submit a document in. All of those things are really important. Another thing that's really important to keep in mind is that once we're in underwriting, you have your contract. Once you get into a contract, that's it. Clock is ticking. There is a time limit now on everything. There are contract dates that you have to meet, and there are contract dates that I, as your lender, have to meet. You've obligated me to meet certain contract dates as well by you signing this agreement with the seller. So everything you want to think of is like, I need to get it right away. For me in my field, 4 hours, 4 business hours is really the anticipated turnaround time. I give you guys 24 because sometimes, you're at work, you may need time to do something when you get home or whatever. So I have to be sensitive for that. So for me, I'll say you can take up to 24 hours. But in my field, if somebody asks me for something, they expect to have it within 4 hours because that's a reasonable amount of time to turn something around to them, given the field that we're in. Everything that we do is time sensitive. So a couple of tips for you. Send exactly what it is that I asked for. If I say I need a transaction history from February 23rd through March 5th, send me February 23rd, not February 22nd, not February 24th, through March 5th. Because exactly what I'm requesting, that is exactly what's needed. To remember, we want to keep the underwriter from going into their investigative side. We don't want them to do that. So we give them exactly what it is that they need to ensure that things run as smoothly as possible. Another thing, bank statements. People always do this because you don't really think of it as being really important. And I can totally understand why. But bank statements, we need that page that says intentionally left blank. Yeah, we need that. Even though it's left blank, well, it's not really blank because it says intentionally left blank. But that page, yeah, we need that. So just so you know, when you send in your bank statements, you don't want to omit any pages. We have to be able to show a sequential order of pages and nothing can be omitted. Last thing, and this is really important too, screenshots are not acceptable. I know we get to do it for like everything, and it's so easy. Like I even got into screenshots now because I can just click these two little buttons on my phone and it just pop, like I'm taking pictures of all kind of stuff. I ain't taking notes on nothing no more. I'm just screenshotting. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take that. But when it comes to underwriting, screenshots don't work. We can't do screenshots for underwriting. So when you are sending over documents, again, think professional. Professional level is PDF document where you can see all sides of the document. If it's a sheet of paper, that's 8.5 by 11. We want to see an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, not a sheet of paper that's got something ripped off at the bottom or, no. Things like that. It needs to be professional level when you're sending things like that over, especially for underwriting. Okay. So I did want to go, we missed something. There we go. So I did want to go over a couple of things because I thought it was important for you guys to understand that during the underwriting process, there's going to be a couple of times that we use the word approval. So like when I first meet you and talk to you, we've already discussed that. I do the CIA, credit income assets, and I do a full evaluation, and then I do the automated underwriting system, and then I evaluate a file for you, and I have enough information that you've provided for me in order to say, okay, I can pre-qualify or pre-approve this person to be able to go into a mortgage loan. It's a pre-approval though, or a pre-qualification. So that means it's before some other kind of qualification or some other kind of approval. So that initial approval is what comes from the underwriter. So that's when you have a contract, we have all the players in place, money has been given, or some kind of agreement has been made, however that works out. But most people do put down like earnest money. And stuff is scheduled for closing, all that good stuff. So now the underwriter is going to give you an initial approval, which is what we call a conditional approval. And basically, if you look at the screen, they conditionally approve the loan and give us a list. What kind of list do you think they give us? You can type it in the chat if you want to. It's so easy because I put it there. I couldn't resist to put that picture up there. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's a honey-do list. That's how I think of it anyway. So basically, they're just saying, hey, these are the items that we need to have completed. If you complete this list of items, these conditions, then we will agree to fully approve the loan. So the fully approved loan is the coveted CTC. That's what everybody's waiting for. You can type that in the chat too, CTC. CTC, you guys should know that from one of the classes that we did because we talked about acronyms. So CTC stands for, y'all know what it stands for. I know y'all know. What do CTC stand for? Is somebody going to type it in? Thank Thank you. Clear to close. Well, it's right there on the screen too. So that should have been pretty easy because I'm making it simple for you guys today. So CTC, clear to close. Clear to close basically just means that the underwriter has thoroughly gone through the file. You have met all of the conditions that are necessary. They've all been filled now. They've cleared everything off. They cleared condition 1 through 12 or 23 or however many conditions was on it. They've all been cleared off now. So that's why we get the term clear to close. And so once that happens, we schedule the actual closing. You probably heard of that before, that I'm going to close on my house. So that's what that means. That means that they're going down somewhere. For refinance, usually we send people out, but on purchases, which is what we're talking about, then we have people go to like the title company or maybe to an attorney's office or someplace mutually agreed upon by seller and buyer, where an intermediary is going to be there for all the documents, because you have to have somebody, some of the documents need to be notarized. So you need to have, notary of the public that's there. And they're usually employed by the title company. That's usually the easiest way to do it. The title company handles all the money part of the transaction. So you go down, sign all the papers. So after you finish signing all the papers and everything is good, the money is right, and everything is cleared and all balanced out, you get your keys. And so now, woo! You are officially a homeowner. Yes. Yay. And congratulations. And so now this is the time, I'm planning to come by your house and, dance a hole in your carpet and all that good stuff and do shout and all that, because I do all that. So, yeah. So I wanted to go over that so you understand what happens during that process. All right. Now there are some things that happen after closing, and people don't always talk about this part, but I think it's really, really important to think of everything. So I do actually have a more exhaustive list, but I'm going to go over a few things right now that you want to kind of be thinking ahead. People already are thinking about basic stuff like, I have to have movers, or, Junebug from down the street and some of his, guys, they gonna come and help me to move my stuff from where I was renting or staying with relatives to now my own home. So doesn't that feel good to say? So you want to think of the kind of things that are going to happen after the closing takes place. You got the keys, you did your walkthrough, everything is as they said it's supposed to be. And so now we're at the place where, okay, what do we do next? Oops. So usually for most people, the first thing they want to do, well, they always want to go and kind of just look around, like you just kind of take it all in. I admonish you, take a moment to do that. Even if you bought a fixer upper, still take a moment and, before you move any of your own stuff in, just walk through the house and, just savor that moment. This is yours. You did it. Congratulations. And you should be happy. I don't really like to use the word proud, but you should be happy about what you've been able to accomplish, and especially through God's grace and mercy and favor that you've had this to happen and occur in your life. So I just want to say, just take a moment before you do anything else, any of this list. I know I got a list here, but before we get to the list, just take a moment and breathe it all in. Because in order for you to get to this point, that means you did the work. You did what you were supposed to do. That means that you made sure your credit was in order. You made sure your finances were in order. You followed through when it came time, for the inspection. Obviously, you went out, and looked at different places, and you located the place that you wanted to make yours. You did some stuff. This is not something you just woke up like, oh, yeah, I'm a homeowner today. It don't work like that. You did some stuff. So take a moment and just savor that and just enjoy it. Just enjoy that moment, because this is a huge accomplishment. Believe it or not, some people go to their grave without ever being able to say that they accomplished homeownership. So I don't care if you're 29, 46, or 82, it's an accomplishment. And congratulations. Okay. So now that you've taken it all in, here's the next thing I want you to do. Clean up your house. You definitely want to make sure you clean. Because, people, somebody else is living there. You don't know how they lived, what they did or whatever. So I think it's just always customary. Even if the place looks clean, people will still go ahead and clean it anyway because you want it like your clean. Like whatever your clean is, you want it to be your clean, not somebody else's clean. So usually people go in, that's one of the first things they do. They clean. They may paint. A lot of times people paint either they didn't like the colors or maybe it just needed a fresh coat. Somebody else was living there and they probably didn't paint right before they left. But some people do, but a lot of people don't. So, and you want to make it yours. It's your house. That's the beauty of ownership. You don't have to ask nobody about what colors, you don't have to ask anybody. Rent's not going to go up. Like there's all these things that to be able to do. You can change around, the way stuff is set up in the house. If you want to knock down a wall, well, you may have to get a permit for that. I don't know. But if you want to change some, renovate some stuff physically in the house, you can do that. It is yours. So that's the beauty of home ownership, being in the position that you're in right now. So one of the things you want to do right away, replace them locks or get them rekeyed. So, I haven't heard really any stories about this actually happening, but I'm willing to bet it's happened to somebody where, they didn't get the locks changed. And so as a result of that, then, they had some issues maybe with somebody having access to their home. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, your privacy being invaded. You want to make sure that you're safe and secure in your home. It's your home. So definitely get those locks replaced or get them rekeyed. Second thing, tell everybody I got a new address. So one of the ways you're going to do that is USPS. Make sure you go in and do the notification of moving. So you have an address change. Make sure you do that because your financial institutions, your creditors, your banks, everybody who needs to send you something through the mail, you want to make sure they have the most current updated address. Your employer, because they're not going to know that you moved. You need to let them know that you have a new address as well. And then, of course, you got to let your family and friends know so they know how to find you so they can come to eat your food and put their feet up on your couch. So anyway, tell everybody you got a new address. Third thing, store your mortgage documents. This might not seem like a big deal, but you don't know when or if you would need them. And so these are, really, really important documents right up there with, medical documents and things like that. So you do want to make sure that you put that away. I have heard of people sometimes needing to pull out their survey at some point in time. Another thing is that I have heard very rare, and especially now in 2023, I haven't heard it happen at all. But I have heard over the years of people that they didn't get their stuff in the mail from the mortgage company, the lending company. So they didn't know where to send the payment. So guess where that is? Your first payment coupon is actually in your mortgage loan documents. So if you keep all of that stuff in one big packet, normally a title company gives you this huge envelope. They put everything in it. Just put that envelope in some kind of a storage bin. You can get something like that for about $3 at Walmart. Put it in there. That way you have it stored. It's safe, tight, secure, even water safe. Probably it would be hard for water and moisture to get in. You put them on those plastic bins or something like that. But yeah, definitely store your mortgage documents. All that's anything attached to the mortgage, the appraisal, all of that. Put all of that stuff in a safe box where you know where it is and how to easily access it in case you need any information. Familiarize yourself with the house. So it's a new place for you, but any house, even if it's new. I had a friend, he bought a house in Indiana, and on his first winter there, he had an issue with the furnace. And so he ended up having to call out, get repairs and things like that. And a brand new house, built it from the ground up, bought the plot of land and everything. So my point is that stuff can happen. And what you don't want is you don't want it to be where in the time of the emergency that you have to figure more stuff out. At the time of the emergency, you want to already be prepared with certain knowledge. Like, you don't want to go trying to figure out, okay, where I got a flood, where's the shutoff valve, for my water. You don't want to go and try to figure that stuff out after an emergency has occurred. You want to already know. So just take a few minutes and familiarize yourself with certain things like that in the house, so that if there is an emergency, that you already know. You know how the panel box works for the fuses and things like that. You know where it is. You know where your shut off valves are. So all that kind of stuff, you want to already know that right up front. So I would say the first couple of days, that's one of the things that you want to do just right up front. So this one, actually, I didn't come up with this. Somebody else did, but I thought it was a very, very good idea. When you pack, you want to make a what we call a first day box. And in that box, you're going to include things that you would, typically use the first day or two in the house. So if you take medications, you put medications there, your phone chargers, laptops, pajamas, snacks and water, bedding, so you have something to sleep on at night, towels, of course, you can take a shower, a flashlight, pen and paper, toiletries. If you have a pet, any kind of essentials that you might need with, for the pet, like maybe their bed, their food, whatever, stuff like that, you want to put in that box. And then trash bags, that's another thing a lot of times people forget is that they need trash bags, because they're throwing stuff away and cleaning up and things like that. Lysol, disinfect. So I would highly suggest that. And then, maybe a box cutter, because obviously I think they say like 60 to 70 boxes is the average that most people use when they're moving. So that's a lot of boxes to open. So it might be good to have a little box cutter that you can use to open up those boxes with, and make that your first day box. So that way, when you're in, that'll be the first thing that you go to. You're utilizing that, and you can and have that, with everything, all your essentials already there. They're already set aside. Okay. Another thing, kind of similar to number 4, complete an emergency preparedness plan. So like, if there's a fire, what do you do? Where do you go? Where are your extinguishers going to be? You may even want to check the fire detector, because the smoke detector, you really should have had that done with your home inspection. Typically they do that, and they're going to let you know, and the appraiser will too. They'll let you know, but you might want to check it for yourself. I don't know. So anyway, smoke detectors, things like that, your plan for fire or tornado, where do you go, what do you do? And so everybody's on the same page. You would be surprised to know how far a little bit of preparation could go in the event of an emergency. I pray that nothing like that ever happens. You don't experience anything like that. But in the event that you were to experience something like that, it's better to be prepared than not. So that's another one. And then we get some fun stuff now. Meet your, everybody say it, neighbors. So you want to go out and meet the people. Who are the people in your neighborhood? You want to go out and meet some people that are close by, so you know who you're living around. Introduce yourself. Some people actually, I live in Downers Grove, and some of my neighbors actually came over, and they just they brought stuff, like they introduced themselves, they brought stuff, like, hey, I'm such and such, we live here. And one lady, she brought me a plant. It was so pretty. I'm terrible with foliage though, so I really do not agree with it. It lasted as long as I guess it was supposed to last, and then heaven bless. So but yeah, so introduce yourself to the neighbors. Go say hello. Get a new friend. And if you might think about it, maybe a housewarming would be nice to have as well, because we love to visit you in your new home. Awesome. All right, let me see if I can get this to go to the next one without giving me a hard time. Okay, so we're actually about to wrap up. Let me come here. Okay, that's not what I'm trying to do. Okay, there we go. All right, so I wanted to end on a scripture today. And this scripture is Jeremiah 29:5. And so I'm going to just read it. Obviously, you've probably already read it now, because I've had it up for a few seconds. But build ye houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. So if you know Jeremiah, at this time, the children of Israel were in exile. And so during that time of exile, God had made it clear that they were going to be there. They weren't being returned home anytime soon, to the land that that God had promised them. Because of their disobedience, they were in exile. So the way I see things right now spiritually, I think a lot of times we can feel that way. We can feel like we're in exile. We can, we're definitely not in our home because we're here, because our heavenly home is where we're going to go back to, right? But for the time that we are here, we are to do exactly what Jeremiah 29:5 says: build houses, dwell in them, plant gardens, eat the fruit thereof. So what God is telling you is that it doesn't even matter what your situation is. That's not the important thing. What's important is following the God who you serve. What's important is understanding that even in exile, the same way that even in exile, he took care of the children of Israel. He allowed them to prosper. He allowed them to build homes and acquire land. He allowed them to have gardens and be able to plant things and to grow and to flourish. He allowed them to do all of that, even in exile, even in a time when they were being punished for their disobedience. They were in a position that they put themselves in. And don't let the enemy trick you into thinking that you don't deserve something because you haven't done everything right, because you ain't always made all the best decisions, because you didn't start, when John Paul and Henry started. It doesn't matter. You start where you are right now, and you hold on to the promises that God has for you. Because God is not a man that he should lie, neither is he the son of man that he should repent. What he says is what he will do each and every single time. And I just want to encourage you today and just remind you today of who you are. You are a child of the Most High God. You are loved by him. You are the apple of his eye. And I love that song. I used to sing it when I was little. If his eye is on the sparrow, then I know, woo, he watches me. Not only does he watch me, but he prepares a place for me. Not only does he prepare a place for me, but every road, every step that I need to take, he will illuminate my path and show me where I need to go. You are not here by happenstance. You are not here by coincidence. You are here by divine purpose. I believe that because God sends people that need to hear the things that he gives us to say. God allows you to walk a certain path because you are a certain person to him. You're his child. Amen. So I love to say, I'm God's girl. That's my daddy. I'm God's girl. He got me. I don't worry about the cares of where we are right now and what's happening, in this time frame. I don't even think about that. That's not my primary focus and concern. When I think about needs, I think about God because I know that God will provide my need. Amen. And I also know that he said that he would give me the desires of my heart. My mind is stayed on him. So I'm just encouraging you today. I'm not going to go into a full-fledged, all-out sermon, but I am going to encourage you today to just stay on the path. God has given you a vision. He showed you what it is that he is capable of doing, but he requires your obedience and he requires your hand, as the old folks used to say, to the plow. You need to keep your hand to the plow. Don't get discouraged. This is not the time to not be disciplined. This is not the time to splurge. You need to save money. You need to be following these videos and following the steps of the credit restoration and all the other tips and information and stuff that we've been giving to you. You need to put that stuff into action. This is the time. You 23s, remember? So all my 23s, you can type it in the chat right now again. 23s, that's what you are. So with 23s, there are things that we are not allowing, we are disallowing in this year. And there are things that we are saying, okay, this is my level. This is my level, and I will not go beneath that. All right. So whereas before we would say, okay, well, I can accept this. I'm okay with it. No, we ain't doing that no more. Not at 23. Not if you're 23, you're not doing that anymore. That's not where you are right now. You've risen up. So since you up a notch, everything else got to level up to you and be at the same notch where you at, if you understand what I mean. So thank you. Any questions? Let's look in the chat and see what we got for questions. And we will go from there. Let's see.